Do that, I just want to give everyone a little bit of a heads up. We have an executive session and then a work session. I want to make sure the council has plenty of time for this executive session. So if it runs long, the option would be that we can have the process session either in the 7:30 meeting, which does not probably have a lot going on, or we can bump it to Wednesday. We would do it this week, but we could. So I just want you to be sort of forewarned. I'm not going to harass you around timing on the executive session because we just really need to have a robust conversation. So that is my plan. And with that, how do I do this officially? Yeah.
You have something to read, right?
Oh, I have something to
Yeah,
read.
and then we'll shut the door down and, oh,
Okay.
timing.
Oh, let's wait for Greg. Okay.
Perfect.
He knows this.
So the mayor and, so the city council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602E to discuss the negotiation of real property transactions. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. regular, we have 15 minutes. I have one quick thing, and we're off. Okay. So we don't have time to do our whole process session, but I did want to just have I think we can probably do this quickly, a conversation about the interview process for the Ward 4 counselor role. And I think staff has some insights on that.
Yes, so when we last discussed this with you, you had given us direction to put applications out, require a due date of May 19th, which we did. As you know, we received 6 applications there in front of you in the envelope before you there. And then we agreed that we'd come back for interviews on June 14th. That's a date when you are all available. You probably saw.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
Yes.
I did not get to respond to that date, and there is a Lane Act meeting at the exact same time.
Oh.
And neither Alan or I would be able to go, which was the case this month. So that's a little problematic because that's a committee that we've committed to as much full attendance as possible.
Okay.
So we might need to revisit that date.
Okay.
Okay. So we can work on that. Maybe now then, for now, we skip to the idea of questions. So in your most recent process to appoint a counselor to a vacancy, I believe you each submitted a question to be used during the interview process. And Alan, I think you proposed that via email today. And so if possible, we'd like to get head nods that that's acceptable to you for the Ward 4 process. And so we'd send you an email soliciting questions and you'd all have the opportunity to submit one.
Can I clarify that? I think that's a good idea. I mean, these aren't boards and commissions type interviews, so these would be a little bit more lengthy. I think if each one of us had a question that we had on the table that we asked each of them, we could kind of get our issue on the table, make sure we coordinate, that they're not duplicative. But I also think there are some real basic questions that are up front that need to be asked. And maybe Mike and I as council officers can come up with, or you guys can suggest what those are to be able to come up with some real basic questions about your ability to do the job and things like that. And then get into it. I would suspect our questions are going to be issue specific.
Right. And so coming around the table right now are the questions that you asked last time. And so this might be a good starting point. There are some basic questions included here. So you could start there. So I don't know that anyone anticipated 6 applicants. The reason why we are suggesting an evening meeting to accomplish the interviews was because you did in fact get 6 applicants. And that would also free up the noon work session on the 14th for us to provide you a presentation on human services funding, which we were trying to do prior to the budget decision that you will make later in June.
If everyone could.
Interject, Mayor?
Yes, you and then Betty. Sure. Hang on.
So I'm fine with so I'll just do my interjection and not take a round.
Right.
I don't want to give the mayor an assignment, but if Mayor Vinnis was able to go to the Lane Act meeting on the June 14th, that would cover us for representation. So I didn't know if the mayor was going to be involved with the interviews for the city council seat. So that's just a little suggestion.
That's a great suggestion. So
Okay.
if that makes it simpler for everyone, that's fine. Great idea. Thank you. Betty?
I was going to suggest that we do it at noon instead of at night, but I guess that's what Claire suggested is another possibility. But I would really like to have it at a regular council meeting time and postpone the other thing. But I think there are more important things to talk about, like do the people all get to listen to the other people's interviews?
Yes, the interviews have traditionally been public meetings and broadcast both via webcast and on Metro TV.
So they would all be sitting here listening, and how do we decide who's first?
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Lottery.
Okay, we could certainly do that.
Because it is a disadvantage. Make it easy. First,
Sure.
I think.
Well,
Not everybody was in the room when I was interviewed, or 2 of us.
Yeah, the other guy was here.
And, yeah, but we weren't in the room at the same
It would be
time.
possible to have
Because we were
candidates
already
waiting
slow.
outside, not in front of a TV.
Yeah, I would think we'd have to look at public meetings.
Well,
It is important that the public get the chance to
Public
hear
can
from the candidate. It is not important that the other candidates
Right.
hear.
Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking of five
Yeah,
of
because
them
that
here.
wasn't done when I was.
I think it's a problem if
Yeah, but there were only two people then.
A soundproof room, it's like,
so that's,
who-
but that's, that can be
where's my line?
Yes, we'll work on that.
That, the cone of silence. We began there, we
Right.
end there, the
Full
cone of
circle.
silence.
Yes,
Okay.
we can definitely do that.
Okay, so we have kind of enough to move forward on this, it sounds like? Yes, Alan?
I would suggest two things. One, I like the idea of having some of them during a session. So I suspect these interviews are going to be a half an hour. So they're not going to be 15 minutes.
oh no.
So we're going to need some time to do this, and maybe if we did 2 and 4 or 3 and 3 or something like that, and had some of them at the lunchtime. Beside that, some people might need to be able to have that time to be able to be free. The second thing that I would suggest is that a lot of these questions are I think maybe they should just be in writing. They don't have to be verbal. I think, some of these are just info, and we don't need to take up the valuable interview time to have them answer us. We could just get them and read these.
Supplemental.
What current positions or obligations you need to give up to serve on the council. That's bullets, right? So I think a lot of these, look at them all carefully, but most of them probably can be a supplemental questionnaire, and then they can focus on the other questions that we have for them, except for maybe the first one, which would be kind of their opening statement, I would think.
Manager first.
Just real quickly on process, one of the things we have on June 26th is an action for appointment to the vacant seat. Do you feel like you're going to need time to discuss prior to actually appointing, and so you'll want a separate work session to discuss all of the interviews, or do you, based on the interviews, somebody will make a motion and see if they have enough votes? Okay.
And then we'll discuss the motion, right?
Right, but I
don't think you're talking about separate,
Right.
completely different meeting?
right.
No, I don't think so. You know?
Patty?
I want to talk about how we vote. Maybe we could do preference voting. With 6 candidates and 7 people, what if everybody gets 1 vote or somebody gets just 2 votes? And if we could do first and second choice, might be good too. So that we'd have
To determine who is interviewed?
No,
Oh.
not interviewed. No,
Oh, I
we
see.
interview them all. But I mean, after the interviews, the voting is rather awkward.
It's just who nominates.
I see.
Well,
Preference voting is different.
Preference voting would,
I think
You'd have a-
generally somebody would make a motion, and then you would either amend it, vote on it, substitute it, table it, whatever
Right.
you choose to do with it, right?
Betty's talking about whether or not we change our entire process.
Right, you're
Not
right.
just for how we start with who gets nominated from the council president's perspective, right?
Right.
oh, you're wanting it so that the president gets to say who he, in this case it is a he, who he thinks should be
Was ever thus.
chosen, and it might be the person got 3 votes, and we might want to, if you knew that the first one you want didn't get there, you might want a chance to say who the second choice was. I think we need to do more thinking about. We did do preference voting once for boards and commissions, and it worked out fine.
Okay.
Mary Walston put it together one time.
Mike, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't, that would require us altering our process for how we normally vote on any item of business. And I really don't think we should do this differently than we do other regular business. And the reason is because it doesn't really matter who the council president nominates as the first name. It matters who can get to a majority of votes. And I mean, if it gets voted down, whoever gets nominated, it gets voted down. Our current process will bring about someone who gets at least 4 votes. But I don't think that any process we put in place is likely to get a unanimous decision from what I'm surmising, let's say.
I don't think so
I
either.
think it could really mix up things.
If I could, typically, what has happened is, especially with boards and commissions, this is something that I've noticed over time too, everybody who is a potential favorite amongst any particular number or group of counselors will get aired in our process. And that's because if, let's just say Alan says, I nominate candidate A, right? And I really wanted candidate B, I can say, well, I move to substitute candidate B. At that point, we can only amend once, so we're going to vote. Is it that candidate or isn't it? And if there's not enough votes, somebody else could say, well, I nominate candidate C, or it goes back to A. But either way, we can keep going until one of the candidates hits 4 votes.
But if you knew that A couldn't get it and you wanted A, you might not like to have B. You might have wanted a chance to have C, maybe.
We can all speak our minds and make the decision that we make, though. And I think that based on the quality of the candidates that I've seen so far, I've read some of the applications, it will be a difficult decision, but I think our normal discussion process will illuminate that.
You're not not allowed to just amend it once. You can amend it.
No, you can't amend an amendment.
For this, the substitute,
Next amendment.
part of it is you'll have an opportunity, so you move to appoint A, then there's going to be a discussion. So the discussion doesn't have to be I substitute for B, it is I'd actually prefer B. And then, so I would expect, as most of our discussions, you kind of, before the hands go up, you know how we can generally think where the hands are going to go.
And to finish, the reason it's important to me to have the discussion out loud is because of its transparency. I don't want to do anything by virtue of us writing down ballots where only we see what the numbers genuinely look like and what the tea leaves are about where the preferences are. I want to have the whole process out in the lights in front of the cameras where we discuss all of the candidates and our preferences. So that's my choice.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I agree that it needs to be as transparent a process as possible. What I want to try to avoid, though, is a situation where who gets nominated initially is just one person's preference. Since Alan's the chair, Alan gets to make the nomination, so it's whoever Alan thinks it should be. And then we have to go through this whole amendment process. It would really be nice if somehow Alan had a sense of who was a more favored candidate. And I think the way we do with boards and commissions, where we could at least express, well, I interviewed 6 people. Of the 6, I think this was the one, or even these were the 2 that I thought ranked the highest. It at least gives Alan a sense of where the rest of the council was, so that we don't go through a process of, I nominate A, I don't like A, let's nominate B, let's vote on B. Well, B didn't get it, so now we go to C, and that could take 2 hours. It would be easier to just say, you did the interviews, did you have a preference?
So that gets to what John raised, which is, did you want to have a work session before? Which is, I think, what I actually heard you say, Councilor Pryor, which is, do you want to talk about the interviews before you're scheduled for action?
And I think on the tentative agenda, we did mark out a work session. So there is the possibility for us to have a discussion on the 28th or whatever date that was.
Right.
So that there's time for that. We could do a straw poll so that people have a chance to know kind of where we are before, I agree with you, before we go through a voting process.
I could even support that, because it would be better than having this continuous knockdown, drag out balloting.
Right.
Which to me is not productive.
Right. All right. So, yeah.
Actually, I assumed we were going to do a ballot. Is that not correct? Before the meeting?
Your previous discussion had indicated that you'd like to interview all applicants. If you'd like to ballot, we can certainly.
But then after the interviews are done, I assumed we were going to do a ballot. That then gives us the where people are. If we did that like we do with boards and commissions, after we interviewed them, then we ballot. And if someone gets 4 votes, then it's short discussion. If not, then we go through a more laborious process. So I think it's a good idea to do what we do with boards and commissions and follow that kind of same process and do a ballot before we get to the council meeting, and that gives the chair or the president a heads up where the council's heading, which is the whole point of that process, not for me to guess everybody. It's not binding. It still has to be taken action in a public meeting. So I think we should do that. Second question that I had is about the questions and whether or not we should give them. Obviously, if we're going to do these as supplemental written questions, they'll have to submit them. But if we have questions, should we give them to them beforehand so they can think about them, or should they all be just on the spot responses?
Well,
I see both sides of that. I like to see people think on their feet, but I also like thoughtful responses.
if you're going to split it up between 2 days, then only half of them will have to think on their feet. So just take it into account.
Point.
Oh, that's true.
Good point.
Right?
Good
Unless we're
point.
going to do a 3-hour.
Maybe what I would suggest in the interest of time, why don't we just take this conversation at your Wednesday work session? What we will do is say, okay, based on everything we heard, here's how we would recommend the questions and the voting or not the voting and the ballots or the not the ballots, and then bring that to you on Wednesday, and you can say, looks great, or let's tweak this, or we can spend the time talking about that. And that way, at least you'll have something to work from. And what we'll try to do is, our intent will be is to have something that's familiar. So we're not going to try to come up with a brand new system for this. We're going to try to come up with something that feels familiar, either how we've done it before or something similar to that. So if that would work.
That sounds great. Did you still have a comment,
Yes,
Mike?
thank you, Manager. City Attorney. The reason for this question is that I believe that appointing a counselor is another level of responsibility than appointing a member to a board and commission. I think it requires an extra amount of transparency and an extra amount of diligence with the public because it's their legal representative. So my question, if we were to take some manner of straw poll or ballot, would it be required that that is public information after the fact? Or let me ask a better question, which is how would you ensure that was publicly available?
They're public records.
Yeah, boards and commission ballots are public records.
Okay.
Not an executive session.
There's a member of the press in the audience. I just want to make sure everybody's hearing it. That's all. Just saying.
All right. Are we good to take a break? Thank you. And this work session is closed. Thank you.